I want to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this week's virtual Drasha. To begin by thanking our mishpachos, our families who have dedicated this week's Drasha, to thank Bruce and Lois Kaufman for dedicating the Drasha in honor of Bruce's mother's birthday, Mildred Kaufman. We hope that Emir Hashem shall have many more birthdays. Ad mea ve'esim shanim tovos. We thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Elul, Ed and Faith Wolf, for dedicating all the shiurim and drashos this month in memory of beloved father, grandfather, and great-grandfather Cyrus Wolf, Shalom ben Tzvi Hirsch, and our Week of Learning sponsors, Joe and Galia Berry, for dedicating the shiurim and drashos this week in honor of their 43rd wedding anniversary and successful aliyah 3.5 years ago. We thank all of our sponsors for their dedication and for their generosity. We have the incredible privilege this week to read Parshas Tavo. And this parsha, I think I always give this same introduction because it's so striking to me, which is Chumash Devarim is so different than any of the other Chumashim. The other Chumashim, they follow a narrative, they follow a theme, and even if you hold in Muktam Uchaber Torah, even if you hold that there's no necessarily chronological sequence to Torah, that things could occur out of chronological sequence, thematically I understand how things come together. Chumash Devarim is like the free flow consciousness of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe has so much that he wants to give, so much that he wants to share, so much that he wants to imbue onto Klal Yisrael, and yet he realizes that his time in this world is limited. And so you see Moshe Rabbeinu almost like in a frenetic, frantic pace to convey, to give as much information, as much knowledge, as much guidance as he can in the limited amount of time that he has. So in this week's parasha, the Torah introduces us to the concept of bikurim, first fruits. So very simply, if a farmer has first fruits, and the first fruits only come from the 7 species indigenous to Eretz Yisrael, you bring your first fruits to the Kohen. That's the halacha. You bring your first fruits, and again, there are many there are many different understandings of this mitzvah. Of course, on the most basic level, giving of your first fruits to the Kohen represents an incredible level of emunah, incredible level of belief. That remember, a farmer worked hard to get those first fruits, yet he gives them to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he gives them to the Kohen, representing his incredible belief in the Ribbon Shalom, that although I, the farmer, did all the agricultural work, the success of my endeavors doesn't come from me, the success of my endeavors comes from God. And as such, I give God the first, an incredibly important yesod, that whatever we accomplish in life, obviously it is our job to put in the ishtadlus, our job to put in the effort. But the blessing of success only comes with the consent of God. And therefore, at the beginning of any successful initiative in life, a person always has to pause and stop and say, thank you, Ribbonu Shel Olam. But of course, Bikurim is not just an expression of gratitude to God. It's also one of the gifts that we give to the Kohanim. One of the ways in which we go ahead and we support the Kahuna, we support the priesthood. And think about this idea. The farmer has worked so hard, probably sleepless nights, early mornings, late nights, to work this field, to till this soil. He finally has fruits, and what does he do with them? He gives them to the Kohen. Now granted, it's not all of the first fruits, right? Bikurim actually, again, interesting, if it doesn't have a shear, it doesn't have an amount, you could give him a lot, you can give a little, but it's fascinating that you take from your hard-earned fruit, literally your hard-earned fruit, and you give it to your brother. You give it to your brother, and he could eat it together with his family. This idea of mutual responsibility. See, it's easy in a society for someone to say, listen, if I work, I reap the benefits, right? If I put in the effort, then the benefits, then the results, the fruits of my labors are mine. What I have to share it with you. But yet we see that in Klal Yisrael, we recognize that different people have different responsibilities. The Kohen's job is in the Beis HaMikdash. But in order for him to do his job, I have to do my job. My job, I'm the farmer. I'm the farmer. And yes, part of my job is to support my family, but part of my job is also to help support my brother. So this incredible idea that in the first fruits, there's an act of emunah, an act of incredible belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but also an incredible display of love for the other, an incredible display of responsibility for the other. I am my brother's keeper. I will take care of the Kohen. But I want to draw your attention to a fascinating detail. So the Torah says, this is in Parak Chaf Beis, Pasuk Beis, chapter 26, verse 2. V'lakachta mereishis kol pri ha'adam asher tavi ma'artzecha, asher Hashem Elokecha nosein lach v'samta batena, v'halachta el hamakom asher yivchar Hashem Elokecha l'shakein shemo sham. So the Torah says, you shall take of the first fruits that you will bring from your land that Hashem has given you. You shall place them in the basket, and you will go to the place that Hashem has chosen to rest His name there. Of course, that's a reference to Yerushalayim. So what's interesting to note is the Torah goes out of its way to mention that you should put the bikurim you should put the bikurim in a basket. In a basket, and in fact, the basket comes up again when you come to the Beis Hamikdash. You give it to the Kohen. Torah says you give the basket to the Kohen. He waves the basket. And the question, which is a pretty simple question, is why does Torah tell me to take it in a basket? In other words, the idea, my obligation is to take the first fruits from my field and to get them to Eretz Yisrael. To get them to Yerushalayim, to the Beis Hamikdash. That's my obligation. So whether I decide to use a basket, a box, a 7-mile market bag, whatever I choose to use, what does it matter? Why does it play any role? Yet the Torah goes out of its way to say, V'samta batena. You have to place it in the basket. What's the message of the basket? So the Medrash Tanoim brings down, he says, V'samta batena malami shetu'unin kli. It teaches us that part of the mitzvah of bikurim is that bikurim must be placed in a utensil. Must be placed in a utensil. That I made for the mitzvah bikurim is just bringing the fruits up to Yerushalayim, giving them to the Kohen, and gamarnu. That's it. No, part of the mitzvah is placing the fruit in a utensil. And in fact, the Chizkuni comments, and he says as follows. He says, "V'samta batena derech kavod, v'lo b'cheik, v'lo b'knaf habeged." So this is actually quite beautiful. So the Chizkuni says, and really building on this Medrash Tanoim, the idea being that what do we want to avoid? So we want to avoid the person going ahead and, let's say, putting his fruit in the hem of his clothing, or kind of carrying it together in his arms and going up. Why? What's wrong with that? It's not bakavadik. It's just not respectful. The bikurim, those fruits, although they are fruit, they are now vested with a level of holiness. Again, not sacrificial holiness, that is true, but they are vested with a level of holiness. And because they are vested with a level of holiness, therefore, by definition, they must be treated appropriately. They must be treated with proper regard and respect. So therefore, the Torah mandates the use of a basket, because the basket ensures that the fruits will be handled and carried properly. Okay, that's the approach of the Chizkuni, approach to them, which again in and of itself yields an incredible lesson as well about how careful we have to be with our things, because our things come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, this is the famous idea, the pasuk when it talks about Yaakov Avinu's fight with the Ish, with the unnamed man who Rashi identifies as the ministering angel of Esav. So the Torah says, "Vayivaser Yaakov levado vayavek ish imo." Yaakov Avinu was left alone, and a man started up with him, fought with him. And Rashi says, why was he alone? So Rashi HaKadosh quotes the famous Gemara, Shachach pachim kitanim. He forgot little jugs, he forgot little containers, and he crossed back over in order to go ahead and get his containers. I asked the Maharal, I don't understand. Can you imagine? He forgot his Tupperware. So he goes back, he leaves the family, crosses over the river in the middle of the night to get his Tupperware. What's the pshat? Yaakov was wealthy already by now. He needs to worry about the Tupperware. So the Maharal explains so beautifully, because the tzaddik knows that everything is a gift from Hashem. Even that which is great, but even that which is small, even that which is insignificant, even that which is disposable, that is a gift from the Ribono Shel Olam. And when you know that something is a gift from the Ribono Shel Olam, you treat it with respect. You know, the mashal I often give, the parable I often give for this idea is, your child makes you a project in school. Now, what's the value? What's the actual value of that project? Nothing. The truth is, you couldn't even pay someone to take it. Objectively, it might be junk. It might be garbage. It might be worthless. It can't color in the lines. Nothing else. Nebuch, right? No. But yet, because my child gave it to me, it's endowed with an incredible pricelessness. It's endowed with an incredible value, an incredible beauty. When you know that everything you have in life is from the Ribono Shel Olam, then by definition, everything has an incredible beauty associated with it. Therefore, says Torah, V'samta batena. These first fruits, these are from the Ribono Shel Olam. And because they are from the Ribono Shel Olam, therefore, I treat them with respect. These are not regular fruits. And the truth is, there's no such thing as a regular fruit. Every fruit is endowed with a sanctity, because it comes with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But especially these first fruits, which you have to take up to the Beis Hamikdash, which you have to give to the Kohen, they're Kaddish, they're holy. Handle them and transport them accordingly. And of course, the deeper message being, I'm sure many of us as children, when we would play with our food, or right, bal tashchis, it's not, you can't waste. And the truth is, maybe sometimes as a kid you think it's just your parent being a bit too dictatorial or authoritarian, but it's so true. Everything I get, whether I want to eat it or not, is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we have to be careful what we throw out. We have to be careful how we handle our food. We have to be careful. Chazal tell us not to throw food. This idea that everything is from Hashem. So if everything is from Hashem, then by definition it has to be treated with incredible sanctity. But the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says something a little bit different, which I just thought was really absolutely incredible. I'll give you a mashal. So the mashal is like this. How it ever happened to you where you have to go into the store? You say to yourself, I'm going to go into a supermarket, to the store. I just have to pick up a couple of things. So, as you're walking into the store, you eye the cart, the wagon. And I don't need that. It mamish like a couple of things. It's going to take me, the amount of effort to pull out the wagon, to push the wagon, to take the wagon out, to put it back in. I'm sweating just thinking about it. So I figure, you know what? It's fine. I need 2 or 3 things. I'll hold it. I'll be fine. See, how this story ends. You get into the store, 1 thing, 2 things, 3 things. Okay, I'm good. But then I realize, I'm already here. So you know what? I need 4 jars of marinara sauce, or 7 boxes of cereal, or whatever it is. And suddenly, what happens? But still, I made a conscious decision. I'm not taking a cart. I said I don't need a cart. So what happens? My arms are growing. What I need right now is like a Bas Paro miracle, right? I just needed my arms to extend a little bit, and everything will be great. But alas, that is not to be. But again, I'm steadfast in my way. I made a commitment that this is a no cart. This is a no cart venture, right? This is a no cart supermarket shopping, and I'm a man of my word. I'm not going back. So again, overflows, and then what happens? Inevitably, what happens? You drop something. So if you're lucky, it's not something that breaks, but you drop something. Because whenever you try to go ahead and juggle too much without the cart, you're going to drop something. And what an incredible metaphor for life. Because what the cart represents is a framework. You see, a lot of times in life, we try to juggle a lot of things. We try to do a lot of things and accomplish a lot of things simultaneously, or even not simultaneously, but we just try to do a lot. And a lot of times I become focused on the particular tasks I have to do. And when I say tasks, I don't just mean things like, go to the supermarket, drive carpool, answer my emails, return my phone calls. I mean like life tasks, things I want to accomplish in life. But I don't have a bigger picture. I don't know what is it exactly that I'm trying to accomplish? Not just what do I want to do now or what do I have to do tomorrow, but what's my grand vision for my life? What's my grand vision for me? Who do I want to become? What do I want to do? What do I really want my life to look like? Not what do I have to do now or later or tomorrow? Those are important questions to ask also. Of course, I have to know what I have to. I have to have my to-do list. But I mean bigadol, in a more panoramic sense. So what is it that I'm trying to accomplish in life? And have I created for myself the right structure so as to be able to accomplish that? And perhaps that's what the basket symbolizes. You see, what's the gadlus of the supermarket shopping cart? What's the gadlus of your supermarket wagon? It gives you a structure. Here's the space. Here's the area. Now I know what I have to buy. I need a case of water. Okay, that's not going to go in the cart because it takes too much work. I'm going to put that underneath the cart. I need a dozen eggs. Perfect. I don't want to put that in first because l'maisa, then it's going to get crushed. Gvaldik. It has that fold-out thing. I don't know what you call it, that zach that you push out. That little shelf on the top. You put the fantastic, and there's a chachma because the shopping cart creates a certain seder for my shopping experience. Here's the amount of space I have. Here's the amount of area I have. And now I know what I have to buy. But again, I have to do this with chachma. So I don't know that it makes sense to get the eggs first if I don't do this, or the grapes last, or I should go. I have to think about it. It creates a structure. That's a basket. See, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want is he doesn't want you going up to Yerushalayim with a armful of pomegranates and dates and everything spilling out and schlepping and you're schwitzing and you're this and you're that because stuff is falling here and I'm trying to get this and the kids are yelling and this and all this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want that. So get a basket. Get a basket. Get a seder. Get a structure in life so that you have the ability to accomplish things. And this is so incredibly important because in this time of year, when we think about, At the end of one year, beginning of a new year, there are so many things we wanted to do, but we didn't do. Hopefully things that we didn't think we would do, that Baruch Hashem, we ended up doing, so on and so forth. And we plan for the coming year. What do I want to do? What do I want to be? And a lot of times we become very focused on the tasks, but not the basket. I become very focused on the items I have to buy, but not the wagon. I become very focused on some of the details which are important, but I forget about the framework. You see, in life, you have to create a framework for yourself. If I don't create the framework, I'm simply not going to accomplish. I'll give you a very simple mashal, very simple idea. If a person says, you know what, this year I'm committing myself, I want to learn more Torah. So I want to do noble goal, I want to learn more Torah. Okay. But it happens to be, I love watching television, which, okay, in moderation, I guess, in the right things, fine. So a person says, but I saw that there's a wonderful deal on cable, and I could get 3,215 channels. So I could watch everything, even things that I have no interest in watching, even things that have no business being on television, even things that doesn't even make sense that they have a channel for it. I could watch it. So you have to ask yourself, are you setting yourself up for success? Are you setting yourself up for success? Are you creating the framework which is going to enable you to accomplish your goals? Your goal is great. And maybe I went out and I bought a whole library of Sfarim. And maybe I even converted a room in my house into a base medrash. And I decided, that's fine. It's beautiful. But are you creating the right environment for your success? Sometimes there are certain habits in myself that I want to change. Certain qualities or characteristics that I want to change. And the reality is, whether we admit it or not, we act differently around different groups of people. Just human nature. Human nature, I have different faces, different facades, different personalities, and they come out. So it could be that maybe the people who I associate with, maybe the people who are, they're friends because they have good neshamas, but maybe they're just not the right influence for me. It's just not the right influence, but they're my friends. So you have to ask yourself, by going in and perpetuating and investing more in those relationships, are you creating a proper basket? Are you creating a proper framework or not? And you get the point. I could give more and more mashal, more and more shalom, more and more examples of this and metaphors of this, but you understand. You see, the fruit, the bikurim, represents the objectives, the goals for the year. The basket represents the framework that allows those goals to actualize and to come to fruition. Can you go ahead and actualize your goals and realize your goals even without the basket? It's possible. Just like it's possible to go into the supermarket for 3 things, then realize you need 23 things, refuse to get the wagon. Could you manage everything in your arms? It's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. It's not probable, but it's definitely possible. It's more probable that you'll drop something, or you'll forget something, or you'll just get upset and forget the whole thing and just walk out because you're so bragious over the whole matzah, over the whole situation. But if you have a basket, the basket allows you to put one fruit after the other. First goal, second goal, third goal, so on and so forth. And then you begin to see, well, I was going to accomplish A, B, C, and D, but now that I look at A and B in the basket, maybe I should skip to E, because maybe E is better now. Just like you have to know where to put the eggs, you have to know where to put the grapes, you have to know where to put the watermelon. In the case of water, sometimes when you have the basket, you have the framework. You don't have to properly arrange your life. I'd say on a personal level, when I come to this time of year, I think we're all in a reflective mood. And sometimes it's very difficult for me to look at the fact that another year has gone by and I have not accomplished so many of the things that I've wanted to accomplish. And I ask myself, why is that? Why is that? And I don't think it's because I don't want it. I don't think it's because I don't care. I don't think it's because that I'm lazy. But if I'm honest with myself, it's often because I don't have a basket, that I find myself on any given day being all over the place. And I think this happens to many of us. Sometimes it starts with a phone call, sometimes it starts with an email, sometimes it starts with a crisis, and then everything you had laid out for the day, it just evaporates. It evaporates. And sometimes that's just part of life. It's something that's just what occurs. But the basket is so important. The basket is your framework. What kind of home am I setting up? What kind of home? What comes into my house? What is allowed in my house? How do I dress? And again, I don't even mean over here necessarily just specifically about length of sleeves. That's not, I'm talking about in general, like, how do I conduct myself? Because how you dress, how you comport yourself, the image you portray to the world and to yourself is incredibly important. And I know that everything in general has become much more casual. Again, it's it was before the pandemic, but certainly as a result of the pandemic, and that's fine. But we have to be conscious about, we feel a certain way when we dress a certain way. So how am I dressing? How is my home? How am I educating my children? What's the chinuch I'm giving my kids? How am I investing in my marriage? Where do I daven, and what does my davening look like? How do I learn? What does my learning look like? Am I learning the right thing? Am I learning with the right group? Am I setting myself up for success? These are all features of the basket. So you could hold the fruit of davening, the fruit of learning, the fruit of home. You could hold them all. You could try to hold them in your hands. But chances are you're going to drop something. The most important thing in life, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is after you take the bikurim, identify the goals of your fruits. Then, visamtem batena. Then place them in a basket. Ask yourself, what is your proper framework for life? How do you create a structure of success? It's beautiful to have goals and dreams and aspirations. But if I don't have a structure, a life structure that supports all of that, it's going to be very difficult to make it happen. It can happen, but it's going to be difficult to make it happen. But if I spend a few moments thinking about, okay, now I know what I want to accomplish. What do I need to do in my life and in my lifestyle to make sure that those dreams are able to come true? That's the tenna, that's the basket. And how does the pasuk end? If you find a way to take your first fruits, identify your goals, samta batena, but create a framework that is supportive and nurturing to those goals, v'halachta el hamakom asher yivcha Hashem Elokecha l'shakein shemo sham. If you are able to put your fruits of goals into your basket of structure of success, then you will be zocha to get to the promised land. Then you will get to that place that Hashem has chosen to rest His name there. You know, Yerushalayim is not just a geographic place. Yerushalayim is a spiritual location. Yerushalayim represents the finish line. Yerushalayim represents all that is perfect and pristine. Yerushalayim represents the actualization of our goals and aspirations. And so the pasuk is telling us a roadmap for life success. Pick your first fruit. Identify what you want to accomplish. Samta batena. Place it in the basket, which is the structure for success. And if you do that, you will be zoche to see the actualization of your dreams, the fruition of your goals. You will be privileged to make it to your personal promised land. Wishing everyone a good Erev Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.